we're going to bake our sourdough that's been in the fridge overnight. So you'll want to preheat your Dutch oven with the oven. So we're going to be preheating the oven at 475 degrees with our Dutch oven in it. The best pot to use for this would be a cast iron Dutch oven. So I have two different ones here. This one's only about a 4.5 to 5 quart one. And I do find often my bread will come right up to the lid, so it's barely big enough. And this one here, you'll also have to season the pan because it has no finish on it. I've also purchased the cast iron one that has the enamel on. Way lower maintenance. You don't have to season this to keep it from rusting. And this one is a 7 quart, which works really well because it's nice and big. So I'm going to get my cast iron Dutch oven preheating in the oven at 475 degrees. And you'll want to have that preheating for about a good half hour because you want to make sure that your cast iron pot also comes to temperature because you want to get your bread into a hot pot. So you don't, if you try to do it as soon as your oven beeps and says it's preheated, it's not all quite up to temperature yet. So give it a good half an hour, 30 to 45 minutes to preheat your oven. So my Dutch oven has been preheating in the oven for about 45 minutes. And I've got my sourdough out of the fridge. So it's been in the fridge the whole time. So we're putting it in cold. So you're going to get that on some parchment paper. Brush off any excess of your rice flour that you may have had on there. Just want to be very gentle with this because you don't want to deflate anything, any of the air. And then you have to get a razor blade and you want to slash your top. There's different ways you can do this. I personally like to do a checkerboard on the top. It rises up nice and even that way. You can do just one big slash. By slashing your bread, when it goes in the Dutch oven, you keep the lid on for the first 25 minutes and in the Dutch oven, the steam from the water from the bread will steam in there and the bread will open, all your cracks will open up. So the first 25 minutes is going to be with the lid on and then we're going to remove our lid to do for another 20 minutes. So let's just get this in the oven. So you're just going to make sure your pot's good and hot and I just pulled it out for this. And so the oven is still at 475 475 and we're going to put this in for 25 minutes on your middle rack. So this has been in for 25 minutes. You're going to now lower your oven temperature to 450 for the last 20 minutes. And you put a cookie sheet underneath your Dutch oven. So just put your Dutch oven right on top of this because you don't want the bottom of your loaf to get too dark. With such a high temperature in the oven, you've got a lot of heat coming from the bottom of your oven. So moment of truth is you're going to remove your lid and you can see how your loaf is opening up nice. Now we're putting it in for another 20 minutes so that it can get all nice and golden dark brown. Alright, so I've taken my loaf out of the oven, so it was in for the 25 covered and 20 uncovered, and by putting the cookie sheet underneath, it doesn't get too dark on the bottom. So this is it's a very hard crust right now, and that'll soften up a little bit as it cools down. This is the hardest part. It smells so good in here, but you have to wait 2 hours before you cut your bread open because if you start to cut it, you're going to squish everything and everything's going to get really gooey inside. So you want to just try and let it cool down for 2 hours before we cut it open. So I'll see you again in 2 hours when we cut this one open and to see how it looks on the inside. All right, so it's been almost 2 hours. We're going to cut into our loaf. It's lunchtime, so got to have a taste of this. So your outside crust is nice and crusty. And the best way to cut these is to cut it in half first. And then we're going to slice it in the other direction. Otherwise it gets really hard. You'll squish the loaf quite a bit if you do it the other way. Alright, so I'll show you what the crumb looks like on that one on the inside. So it's beautiful, nice little air pockets in there. not too many big ones that we missed. So there's your sourdough. And now if you want to slice some smaller pieces, if you put it face down, and you're going to start slicing your loaf this way, so that way it fits nice in the toaster for the second day if there's any left to toast it up, because it's really nice day 2 or 3 if you have any left to toast it up and put some butter and jam on there is very nice. But otherwise, fresh, put a little bit of butter on there, very nice for a sandwich. So give it a try, sourdough bread at home.